Why will buyers transact in this fashion? Thanks, Maria. Look, you got to put yourself in the position of somebody who is doing well in life, moving on up to the east side, finally trying to get a piece of the pie. They go to the bank, and the bank's like, yeah, we need, you're going to need several months to qualify or a year because you just started this new job. We're worried about your debt to income ratio. There's all kinds of things, right? Well, there's this credit thing that needs to be fixed, and it's going to take some time to do that. But life is moving forward, and people don't want to wait for the things they want. They might want their kid in a particular school district. They might want to be close to particular family members, God forbid. They might want to just be in a particular cul-de-sac, right? There's all kinds of reasons for this. White Sox 3, there you go. The the buyer, though, sometimes is trying to impress his wife. She's got a baby on the way. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons why people want to get into a house. I know, I like that, Mark. But remember, you don't know that I might be recording that game and wanted to see it from 0-0, so you shouldn't be telling me all this. You can't see what Mark's texting me in the chat. He's giving me the score of a game that I'm taping. But now I got to start it from where he's, where he, what do they call that, a spoiler? Don't be a spoiler, man. So look, these folks get super giddy about what they want. So one way to look at this is the buyer they don't have to wait on a bank. We are the bank, and we're approving them as long as they have a big enough down payment. We are the bank. That makes them pretty happy. One person committee. Now, the house could have negative equity, meaning we might be in a situation where we can't sell them the house because what we've agreed to do with the seller was buy for their loan balance, and their loan balance might be more than what the house is worth, and then we obviously have to drive the price up in order to be able to make money from our buyer. But that happens over time. So like a house that's worth 300 and 310 is owed on it. If we get it for the 310, we have 10,000 of negative equity. But if we're getting it with no down and a low payment because the interest rate is low and we can cash flow on it, we still might want to do it. But we might have to sell it for 340 because if we get 30 grand down from our buyer only owes us 310 and we owe the seller 310. So there's not a whole lot of back end spread. And furthermore, if they buy it for 340 and give us 30 grand down and then they go to the bank in 6 months or even a year, it's possible that house won't be worth 340. It's not worth 340 now. The appraisal might not come in. The buyer or the buyer's attorney, if they get one, might point that out. So if that's the case, it doesn't mean we can't do a deal. What we have to do is give them enough time to qualify for the loan so that the equity can catch back up and an appraisal can actually come in. Now, we don't have to do it that way, but we can do it that way. So if the house had negative equity, they can lease the house from us. They could lease the house for the entire loan duration potentially, which are things that we did in like 2011, 2012, 2013. Why? Because houses had loans on them that were like 140% of the value. It didn't seem like it would ever catch back up in those days. So we did long-term leases, or we did do assignments then because we were like, we'll just get out of it. But I wouldn't even assign those now. If I had it to do all over again, I would have just stayed in them because a lot of the equity has caught back up for those people and they've made a fortune, and we could have kept those properties and stayed in the middle on them. Think about somebody who bought a property. I could show you properties if we did a whole analysis here. People who bought properties for for $300,000 option price, but there was a loan balance of $350,000 on it, and we're like, well, we'll just assign this to you. You have a long-term lease. You get to lease this, for really for the duration of the underlying loan, which is 20 some years on this, and you never have to exercise the option if you don't want to, and the next thing you know, it goes up from where 350 is owed. Now it's worth 310. Then it's worth 320. Then it's worth 330. Then it's worth 340. Then it's worth 350. We print more money. It's worth 360, 370, 380, 394, 410, 420, 430. That happens over, well, it doesn't always happen, but it did happen in these last 10 years. So a lot of these people who picked up these houses with negative equity where we were going nuts in 012 and 013 and 014, they're sitting on just a boatload of equity in these properties because their option, because we assign these deals, their option is the loan balance at the time of closing. Well, that loan balance is now paid down to like 320 or something like that, but the house is worth 400. So we did them a really big solid, if you will. So now I'm of the mindset that there's no reason for me to walk away from that. I should have just stayed in the middle the whole time. It doesn't cost me anything. I have no maintenance. I have no repairs. There's no reason the agreement couldn't be with me. That way, if people moved, I could do it again instead of just walking away with that assignment fee. But back then, when you're looking at like, do I really want to have all these properties with negative equity, negative 40 grand, negative 50 grand times 10 properties? It just starts to make you feel like that's not the right move. But today I could see that you'd be better off staying in the middle. So I'm not big on these assignments. But here's the point. Even if the house does have negative equity, they can lease the house for the entire loan duration if you wanted and never have to deal with bank qualifying because that loan is eventually going to get paid down. A lot of these deals, we simply passed our terms on to the buyer, albeit on a lease option, but where their price was the loan balance at the time that they close, which we would never do that now. But in a negative equity situation, you're more incented to do that because you want to give them a chance to actually be able to exercise their option. But given that some of these loans that we took over were 20 some years left remaining on them, a lot of that got paid down, over the last 10 years, and then the property's appreciated. So, they can easily go get a loan because now it's only, it's 60% of its value, the loan is. So anyway, just remember this. If the buyer has an option to buy, it's optional. So when we're talking about why would a buyer transact in this fashion, well, it's optional. It's like, why would I go to a buffet that has all these different foods instead of just going out for Mexican food? Well, I might want to get some of the other stuff, but so I pay a little extra to be in that buffet environment where they have Italian and Mexican and Chinese and lobster and steak and all that and lengua. But I'm not going to eat everything. So, you pay a premium to have an option, but you don't take the big old risk of actually buying the house and running into a situation. Like now, if people buy a house now, they might be concerned that, wow, we're going to sign up for this big old loan. We're working like a dog to qualify for it. We signed up for this big old loan. And now look, the market is crashing and now we owe way more than it's worth. Oh my God, why did I do that? I should have just done what Joel said and did the lease with the option to buy. And if we got into a little bit of a position where there's some equity, then, and things stabilized, we exercise our option. And if we don't exercise our option, it's true, we lose our down payment, but at least we didn't end up with $60,000, $70,000 of underwater debt. So buyers, this is not a bad thing to give them an option. Why do a lot of traders buy options on stocks instead of buying the whole stock? Because they can limit their downside risk and still have a lot of upside. So, this is the last bullet point here on this slide. The buyer may want to have an optional closing in case the market was to crash downward or in case the market was to appreciate upward, where they've got a profit locked in before they would commit. So there's good reason for buyers to want to do this. Now, what about us? The good stuff, right? Why do we do this? Why would we do this? If it hasn't occurred to you yet, probably haven't gone through the training yet, but very good reasons why we transact like this versus just the typical buy and hold, install a renter in there for cash flow. This is probably the quickest way to get a check in real estate today. It's not wholesaling. Wholesaling, you got to get a property that one has a lot of equity and two you can get at pennies on the dollar, say 50 to 60 cents on the dollar. And usually those properties are in a state of disrepair. There's a lot of work to do to be able to evaluate what it's going to be worth when it is repaired and what it costs to repair it, and then even getting the deals in the first place. With us, we could just go to a for rent by owner and say, hey, we'll lease this house from you. We just want to have the option to buy it during the term of the lease. You're already willing to rent it, but we'll rent it from you. It's just we're not going to be the one living there. We're going to put somebody else in the house who are trying to get qualified for a loan. And when we get them qualified for the loan, we're going to exercise our option to buy this house from you. If you're willing to do that, we'll guarantee the maintenance, we'll guarantee the repairs, and you won't see this house again. Won't be your problem. Oh, well, we were trying to sell it anyway. So they give you a deal. Now, did I get a discount? No, probably not. I probably paid full price. I got an option somewhere around full price, not dialed back by realtor commissions and whatnot. But guess what? There's no down payment because I'm renting it. They weren't expecting a down payment. They were expecting maybe a security deposit. But now I'm going to go out on this $400,000 house and go get 35 grand. Boom, just like that. Way bigger than an assignment fee. Rent the house to that person. Give them a couple years to qualify for the loan. Maybe they qualify, maybe they don't. If they walk, no problem. I got 35 grand, I can either let them stay and keep renting it from me, in which case that's not going to be a problem with the person who I'm renting it from, or I can move them on and go get another 35 grand. This is one of the quickest ways to get a check in real estate today, and people overlook it because of this cloud that's being blown out of people's smoky lungs. Wholesale, 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 wholesale. No. Yeah, do those deals if you can get them, but it's not the quickest way to get a check in real estate today. This is. We don't have any long-term obligations. That costs us time, money, grief. We don't have cost of closing the sale. We can fund our purchase out of our buyer's proceeds. We don't have to use any of our own cash. We don't have to use any of our own credit. The risks are minimal. And the market of people that we're selling to is not, I got to have a cash buyer's list for these wholesale deals. Nope. The market is 20 times the size of the qualified buyer traditional sale market. Why? Because lots of people want to own or occupy a house, but they don't qualify for a bank loan to the tune of about a 20-to-1 spread, 20-to-1 ratio, I should say. And they have money, and they have cash, and they're making money. Maybe there's something dinged on their credit. Maybe there's some reason they don't qualify for bank underwriting guidelines, but we can get them across that hurdle if they'll do the things that they're supposed to do over a year or two. These deals, because they're full price and they're good terms for the seller, they can be some of the easiest deals to get with sellers. At least compared to getting a house at 50 and 60 cents on the dollar where people want to tell you to go buzz off all day long. Also, it allows us to transact on deals that other investors are simply going to pass on. Call up on the house. Hey, you have the house free and clear. No. We still owe quite a bit on it. Well, you say the house is worth 300. Yeah, it's probably worth about 300 according to Zillow. Well, what do you owe on it? Well, I owe 250. The wholesale people are dead on water just with that information before they even talk about price. They got to get that house, around 200 with not even including repairs. They got to get it for way less than that. So as soon as they find out the loan balance, it's exit stage left. Heavens to Murgatroyd. Exit stage left even. Us? Okay, so you owe 250 on it. It's worth 300. Well, what would be the least you could take? Well, I was hoping I could get maybe 290. Is that the best you can do? Blah, 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 blah. We get them to 290 or whatever. Okay, so you got a mortgage of 250 on it and you want to get 290. So you're looking to get 40 grand cash out of this. Yes. Okay, well, if I can get you that 40 grand cash, would you be willing to be patient in getting it? Meaning I'll make you monthly payments, I'll make your underlying loan payment, and we'll get you that 40 grand in due time. Because that allows me to do what I want to do, which is I'm going to put one of my buyers in there who's not quite ready to bring in a bank loan. We're going to get them ready to bring in a bank loan. I make money on the financing that I do with them and the bank. And when that money comes in, it pays off the underlying loan, it pays you your 40. This house won't be your problem anymore. So that is so much easier of a wrap than let me find out your mortgage balance, hope that it's below 60% of the value, and then start beating up on them about price. Think about that person with the $300,000 house. Well, I'll give you $150 for it. Sit and spin, buddy. It's a tiring business. I mean, I'm not saying don't do that. I'm just saying these are way easier deals to get. We don't got to get our hands dirty making repairs. If we want to do it as a sandwich lease, we really don't have to be concerned about a due on sale clause. We really don't have to be concerned about a due on sale clause no matter how we buy it. It's a little bit more of a concern when the deed transfers because it does trigger the bank's right, but we talked about all that. And probably the best thing is we get to deal with the best houses and the best neighborhoods where people actually want to live. And there isn't anything to do to get the house move-in ready. This is why we want to transact in this fashion. Okay? Now, what you should understand is that when I talk about a 90-day close and not closing on the house immediately based on the deal we make with the seller, that is not my preferred strategy, but sometimes that's what we have to do. And there is some regulation surrounding going out and marketing for your buyer before you've actually become the actual owner of the property. Commonly and generally across the nation, it's accepted that when you have a contract to buy a property, you now have an equitable interest in that property and you can begin to market it. That is not true everywhere, and that's changing. So what I want you to understand is that at the bare minimum, you really can't go out and market for buyers until at a bare minimum, you have a contract to buy the actual house that you're marketing. So have a contract to buy the house, have the intent of actually buying that house yourself before you go out and try and find a buyer for that house. Meaning, when people tell you on the phone as they get to know you a little bit, oh, well, hey, I don't mind that. I don't want to fill out a whole agreement. Just go bring me a buyer, and if I like the buyer, I'll pay you a commission. You're going to hear that all the time. We can't do that unless you're a realtor. It's one of the reasons I tell you to get a realtor license, because you can go sign those people up like clockwork. Don't try and sell the house for the seller. Do not begin marketing it before you have a contract. Otherwise, you're acting as an agent. That's illegal. You cannot act as a real estate agent without a license to do so in all 50 states. You cannot broker property without a license. Now, if you have an equitable interest, in most places you can begin to market it. Not all. That's changed a lot, right? This is another reason you should go get the freaking license. A lot of wholesalers, like their whole companies, make everybody go get a license because it just changes things. Okay, but here's the point. Don't market somebody's house before you have a contract on it. Let's get the contract at the very minimum.